All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and the Starcom Radio Network. Worldwide, toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And our main website, where you can listen to the X Zone 724, 365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Gary. And Gary, help me pronounce your family name. FOUTZ? Gary, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Good, Gary. How do you pronounce your family name? Is it FOUTZ?
FOUTZ.
FOUTZ.
F-O-U-T-Z, yes,
All right, Gary. Now, you are with, let me see, the Paranormal Roanoke Virginia people?
Yeah, I'm with, actually, I'm the founder of Unsolved Mysteries and Unknown Sightings here in Roanoke. Actually, we're based here in Salem, Virginia, and we kind of do a little bit of everything that a paranormal group doesn't do. We do UFO investigations, even go out for Bigfoot investigations, the whole thing.
Now, Gary, what was it that got you interested in the paranormal?
Well, I was about 15 years old when I got interested in UFOs and Bigfoot. Actually, back then, was called a Yeti, you know, up in the Alps, and so I've read about Bigfoot and different UFO sightings from Roswell up to Betty and Barney Hill and their abduction, and then I went on later on into hauntings, you know, and how, you know, homes and businesses. And back then, the only thing we used was one of those big VHS cameras and an analog recorder, tape recorder. We didn't have the digital stuff like we have now, and we did pretty good at it.
So tell me, Gary, have you yourself seen a UFO?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us about your sighting?
Yeah, we was fishing here on the lake, Smith Mountain Lake, one night I guess it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and that was back when I didn't know how to swim, but after what I saw, I was about ready to learn real quick, believe me. I had turned around in the boat and looked up in the sky, and there was this orange ball just rolling. I mean, it was just going around in a circle as fast as it could go. And so I sat there and I looked at it, and it was an orange color, it kind of looked like the sun. And all of a sudden it just took off so fast that it left, you know, a small tail behind it. And when that happened, when I was ready to jump out of the boat. Also, I want to tell you, it was something I had never seen before, and it was nothing from this planet. It couldn't have been. If our government has something that can maneuver that fast, then, you know, we shouldn't have any problem with anybody else. But I just don't think it was from this planet.
Well, you know, what did the craft look like?
It just looked like a round ball. It was more or less looked like a fireball.
Right.
Now I thought maybe it was a lightning ball or something like that, but it just looked like a round ball.
Mm-hmm.
It was orange, and it was just going around in a circle as fast as it could go. And it was stationary in the sky. And the guy I was with, he turned around and he saw it, and then it just took off with like a blink of the eye, and then basically it left, like I said, a little small tail that faded away. But what it was not a meteor. I know it wasn't a meteor.
Mm-hmm.
I know it wasn't a fireball. It was a craft of some sort that was sitting there stationary in the sky, and then it took off at a high rate of speed.
Now, since that first sighting, Gary, have you seen other UFOs? Have you had an encounter with ETs?
No, we've done some investigations. Actually, we've done an investigation in Whitfield, Virginia, that's about an hour away from here. And that was a rash of UFO sightings that was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And we was going to go down there then, and we never got the chance to go. So about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to get into the investigation. And we got into more than I think we bargained for, because we really had to give it up because our life was in danger. And so that's about as close to, I guess, a UFO type of a situation that you could get into. Whoever was following us didn't want us there. And we had a good source, of information of who, of the gentleman who had this experience, along with the residents of Whitfield. And actually, his son got shot by somebody, they said, that was in just plain suits. And they never did find out who it was. And he actually passed away about 3 years ago, I think. But he was crippled there for a long, long time after that. And so we got up there and we saw some strange stuff. We would go up there and see dead birds on the side of the road just for no reason. I mean, hundreds of dead birds on the side of Interstate 81. And then the people around there was very hush-hush. They didn't want to say anything or talk about it. Mm-hmm. If you did get them to talk about it, it was their story was, just unbelievable to hear. And so we would meet with this gentleman. We probably met with him, like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And we wanted to get a place up there where we could set up some night vision cams in each direction of the sky to see if we could catch anything coming across there. And he had told us some information that kind of made sense and started to really kind of put the puzzle together for me. He had told me that there was a military base that nobody knew about in that area. And then it was sort of kind of come together that maybe they were doing something that caused all this. Maybe that they're the ones that wanted everybody to shut up about it. So after we were followed, I think it was Route 21 or 27, and it takes you have to go over the mountain to get on the other side where the other city is, or town. And we were followed, and we made a couple stops to see if they would stop, when we did. And sure enough, they did. And so I just told my buddy that I was with, I said, we need to make a U-turn and head back to town and get out of, out of this rural area because I don't think we're coming back. And so we did, and we haven't been back up ever since. So we've kind of just put it on the back burner, and because it was getting kind of hot up there.
Did you file a report with the police department? Were you able to get a license number?
No, it was. We do know it was a black SUV.
Mm-hmm.
The windows were tinted, so dark, and here in Virginia we have a law that you can only have your windows tinted just so dark.
Right.
These windows were tinted to the point where you couldn't see anybody. And you know, the way I felt about it, I guess, is if they couldn't find the person or persons that came to the door that night asking for his son and shot him, that they would, they wasn't going to find this SUV. I think there's more going on with Meets the Eye in that area. I see a lot of military vehicles coming down I-81 north, and I've seen a convoy of them. I've seen tractor trailers carrying tanks, just so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what's going on, but I do know the area that he told me that's supposedly supposed to be an underground base. So it sort of kind of come together, about the UFO stuff. Now, whether they had anything to do with that, I don't know. I have no proof of that. But one lady we interviewed had the UFO come over her trailer, and she said it was so low you could see windows, everything. She didn't mention seeing any, possibly aliens inside of it or any movement. But she said it was the most beautiful thing she ever saw in her life. And I don't think this lady would lie about it. She was about as serious as you could get. So there's a lot of people up there that won't talk about it, and some that will, but they don't want to talk to you in public about it.
So about this young man who got shot by this person in a suit, was there a police report made on this, and what were the findings of the police investigation into the shooting?
They never found anything. They never found the person or persons. I was told it was two persons that came to the door with a suit, black suit, and when he came to the door, they shot him point blank. And there was, I know there was a report made, but nothing was found. They it was like they disappeared off the face of the earth. And so nothing really come out of it. I don't think there was any arrest or anything made of it. And it was devastating to him, his father, the gentleman I'm talking about that we know. And he just gave it up altogether. He was into it pretty big time, trying to get some information. And I think he had called the air base, I don't know where the air base was located at, to ask them questions if anything was in that area that night. And this went on, I imagine sightings went on for at least a month in that area. So then they just quit. Now I've been told that some sightings are still being seen, but people are just not talking about it. And I can see why, after somebody does what they did to his son, I could see why.
What town was this in Virginia where this happened?
This was in Whitfield, Virginia.
Unreal.
And it's about an hour from Roanoke.
Right.
It's a small town, a beautiful place, actually. And it's up near the 77 that you can go North Carolina, West Virginia. And it's a very clean, beautiful town, and people are really nice and everything, but they just don't want to talk about what happened, especially the people that knew what happened. And I know that our contact, the one that went through all this mess, he's very careful what he says. He's very careful where we meet him.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like no matter where we meet him to talk to him, people still know about it, or somebody still knows about it, because they seem to know that we're up there asking questions. And I think when they finally come into town there to investigate, the military, I think, came in there, and NASA, they said a NASA vehicle was there. And then they started seeing what they call the Men in Black. Now, I've never seen that, but I can pretty much tell you that his word is good. I wouldn't say he's lying about it whatsoever.
Right.
So, there was some really strange stuff that went on up there, and I would have went on ahead and kept on the investigation, but it was getting pretty dangerous, and, I didn't want to get into a situation where I could possibly lose my life, and I didn't want any of my investigators getting into that situation either. So I just put it on the back burner, and I figured if someone wants to get a hold of me about it, they can. And if they need to tell me any more, they can tell me. But I'm just going to leave it be for now, because it was a dangerous situation.
Now, besides the fact that you had been followed, were there any direct threats made to your life?
No, but it was to the fellow that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He had death threats on him a number of times, and he was supposed to have went to Virginia Beach and talked to a group. I forget what that group was, and I think I don't know if it was a military officer or who it was, called him up and told him, not to go down there and to just lay off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do it. He went on, and then the stress built up on him so bad, he thought he'd had a heart attack. His wife rushed him to the hospital, and they really thought he had a heart attack, but it was stress. They said he was just in so much stress. So he was pressured. He was pressured by the government and pressured by whoever else was involved, and it was a pretty strange investigation. It really was.
Tell me more about your organization, Unsolved Mysteries.
Well, what we do is, like I said, we're a little different from other paranormal groups. If someone calls us and they have a UFO report and they are seeing this, UFO often or whatever, we try to go and do an investigation on it. I had one man call me, and he said one had flew over the interstate where he was at, and I said, well, that could be just a one-time thing, and if you're seeing it every night or every other night or something like that, then we could investigate it. But just a one-time thing, that might be just like myself. That one time down at the lake is the only time I've ever seen it, and I may not ever see it again in my lifetime. So we're working on 3 cases right now here in the area in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we are getting reports of something screaming, making a knocking sound.
Right.
They said, and I told them, I said, look, we're native here. We pretty much know what these animals sound like. Know what a bear sounds like, what a mountain lion sounds like, bobcat, so on. And they said, no, this is not what we heard. And I said, okay. So we went up on one of the sites, and we did a recon of the area. We didn't find any type of footprints. We did see some odd tree bends, and we found, actually, I didn't go inside of it. I should have brought the remote car that I built. It's a huge kind of a remote car. It's not your normal remote control car. This is about 2 foot high and about 2 foot long, and it's got a night vision camera on it, temperature gauge. It's got voice recorder and everything. And I didn't have it with me. I could have sent it inside, but this was a real, whatever this was man-made. It looked like a hut. It looked almost like the Native American type of huts that the Monacan tribe back 10,000 years would have made. And that was the first thing I saw. And one of my investigators went down, took some pictures of it. And but we really didn't want to go in there without knowing if it was something in there,
Sure.
And that's where the remote would have come in. So we have a remote that we can send into caves. If we're at a house and the basement doesn't look safe, we can send it into there. It sends back video through a screen that we have back outside, and we can see everything the remote sees. So we went up there and, like I said, did a recon. And we've got to go back up there, but every time we try to go back up there, it rains, and then when you're up there in the rain, it's hard to hear anything. And so we are going back up there to set some trail cams up. We do want to get that over with, and we have another one that's pretty close by here, and that's another strange one. People are seeing some huge cat, and they say it's not a mountain lion, and they say it's solid black. And I said, well, the only thing I can think of is a panther, black panther, but I don't think black panthers are in this area. So they're seeing this huge cat up in that area. So a gentleman wants us to set up our cams around a pond that he owns up there to see if this thing is coming down to the pond to get water supply. And then we have one on down towards the Body Tot area of near Roanoke. And that, again, is another one of these big screams, knocking on the wood, this type of thing. And that's pretty close to the Blue Ridge Parkway. So we still have 3 of them we still got to do yet. And but as far as the paranormal, ghost hunting, what makes me mad, I think, the most, Rob, is that people are criticized for coming out saying, okay, we got something in our home and something strange going on, and people come along, tell them they're crazy or they're hearing things or seeing things, and people shouldn't be that way. We have a lot of trouble here in the area trying to get people to open up to us and tell us, they have a problem, and because we don't charge for our services, we go in, we do an extensive interview to try to get some information, and we even ask, if they're on any kind of doctor's medications and stuff like that.
And go on.
And so, we want to try to open everybody up if we can, and get people to start calling. It doesn't have to be our group; it can be other groups, and say, "Hey, I got a problem in my house," and forget about the neighbor saying you're crazy, because a lot of this stuff is legit, and then a lot of it can be debunked.
All right, Gary, stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Exonation, for more information, Gary, what's the website that our listeners should go to?
Well, they can contact me at my email at blackcloud24014@yahoo.com. We're having some problems with the web page, and
right.
so we're in the process of trying to get another one started. So they can contact me by email and, ask me any questions or whatever.
All right, Gary, stand by. Once again, Exonation, if you'd like to contact Gary and have him contact you, his email address is blackcloud24014@yahoo.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. More of the paranormal when we return on the other side of this short commercial break set. Don't go away. Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com. Manifestation is driven by imagination, intent, and passion. In our culture, all three have been distorted and disabled by modern media and exploitation. Re-engage your imagination and your passion by entering into the world of paranormal romance. Kahira O'Donnell takes her readers on an exciting journey into the endless possibilities of loving, passionate, and mutually respectful male-female relationship. Her latest book, The Long Dark Night, features special ops adventure, a daring rescue, a psychic woman from the stars, and a special agent that will die to protect her. The Long Dark Night by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or Amazon.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. Call him Reef. Reef is your host. Reef is your guide. Are you happy? Happiness is like trying to find water in the desert. Can you find any? Sometimes, sure, but only a few drops. God is an ocean of joy. But God is not cheap. You cannot find God in a chemical. You must attract God's attention. How? Not by living to please your senses. That is false ego. The Matrix is not real. It is a computer-enhanced hallucination. You are spirit soul, not the body. We have forgotten how splendid our home really is, the spiritual sky. For more information, visit RishasSongOfBlue.com. That's www.REESHASSONGOFBLUE.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money in abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right. Transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X-Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X-Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X-Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X-Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Can't travel on Windy Mountain because the white ghost travels there. Some say that it's a Yeti, so white's the color of its hair. Just like the dinosaurs, he should have died off long ago, but a will to survive has kept him alive in Alaska's frozen snows.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary is our special guest from Unsolved Mysteries. His email address is blackcloud24014@yahoo.com. Speaking about Bigfoot, are there Bigfoot in the area, in the mountains where you live, Gary?
Well, you know, no one has ever actually, I don't think that many people do that much Bigfoot hunting around here.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, there's been a lot of reports of, you know, like I said, some weird screams, knocks, stuff like that. But as far as whether they are here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, I couldn't tell you. That's why I was so glad to get these 3 investigations, so we can get out there. And of course, I've been out there myself, you know, trying to find some sort of evidence. And these mountains can be pretty rough on you, and especially the one we're trying to do now, because once you get up there, it starts getting a little rocky and straight up. But I think that, you know, the Blue Ridge Mountains kind of run into the Appalachian Mountains, and there's been plenty of reports in that area. So, you know, I think that if Bigfoot is the real thing, that, yeah, I would say he would be here just like he would be up in the Appalachians.
A lot of paranormal groups investigate orbs, and I was wondering if you could give me your take on what you believe orbs are.
Well, I think orbs are an energy. It's a big controversy about orbs. If you ever get on YouTube and see some of the groups that puts pictures on there or video and stuff like that, and a lot of people say it's dust. A lot of them say it's airborne particles, and this type of thing, or how the camera is taking a picture. And I agree with that to a certain extent. We have some video of where this orb had come out of one wall, lit up like a Christmas tree, and went into the other wall. Now, that was some sort of energy, and that, to me, would be a real orb. A lot of people say they see faces in these orbs that they see, you know, in pictures and stuff like that. And your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. I've seen the same thing. I thought of the same thing, but I just kind of dismiss it to a degree. And I have seen orbs come. Actually, we had an investigation about 20 minutes from here in Christiansburg, Virginia, and we had an orb that came from this entity was really giving this teenage girl a lot of trouble, and she was scared to death. And so what I told them to do, because I like to experiment a little bit about this, and I told two of my lady investigators to go in the trailer with her and just sit down and talk about anything and everything, but don't say anything about the paranormal. Don't ask any questions. Just sit there like they were visiting.
Mm-hmm.
And with that type of experiment, it worked really well because we actually have one of the cameras, the infrared cameras, showing something coming in front of the camera and turning around and going back. And we had an orb that came from the back of her head that headed right into the kitchen, and it just lit up the back of the wall of the kitchen. I mean, it just lit up. I mean, I've never saw nothing like that. And then, so, you know, I think that spirits are, that orbs are spirits, that it's energy, and they have to have energy to manifest themselves. They can. It's true about batteries dying in your cameras and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people says that's not even true. You have so many people that know so much about, you know, different things, and they really don't know. You know what I'm talking about. It kind of gets you frustrated when you know you've seen this, and other people say it's not true, just like the flashlight technique.
Right.
Some people say that it's not getting a connection, then it's trying to get a connection, and that's why it comes on. I've had electronic people tell me once you break the connection, the only way it's going to make a connection is if you touch it. Then it might make a connection. So, you know, you have both sides. One side says we have good results. The other side says, no, we don't use it because it's fake. It's nothing to it. So, as far as orbs goes, though, I did an experiment. Actually, a group had went into a building here in Roanoke, and they told the people there was hundreds of spirits in there. And I said, well, how did they know it was 100, like hundreds of spirits in this building? And
exactly,
they said, because all the orbs. And I said, well, when I come up there, I'd like to see the video because this was on a infrared night vision camera.
Mm-hmm.
I went up there and looked at it, and there was hundreds of look like orbs, and but I ruled it as dust, and they kind of got mad at me about it. And I said, I'm gonna prove it to you. So we went upstairs, and this actually was a fire department, and one of the firemen had they were getting ready to go to bed, so we set our camera up, and I did exactly what the fireman did on the video. I went over there and switched off the light, went back over to where their bed was, and I started patting my hand on the covers,
causing the dust to
no
rise.
sooner had I done that, and I mean, it looked like thousands of orbs was coming across the camera.
Oh my gosh!
And so it pretty much debunked that thing. And that's what we try to do, because if you go into a house, especially if they have kids, you don't want to go in there and jump off the deep end and say, yeah, your house is haunted, because these people are already scared anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather has a lot to do with whether your house creaks and pops or not. When the barometric pressure falls, I know you've heard people say, "Oh, yeah, it's getting ready to rain or snow because my joints are hurting." Well, that's the barometric pressure doing that, and it does the same thing to a house. It puts pressure on the house, and when you put pressure on the house, the wood and everything is going to creak and pop. So we always check the weather, we check the barometric pressure, humidity, everything before we go out on an investigation to see if the barometric pressure could be playing a role in what they're hearing. And yeah, I mean, we try to debunk a lot of stuff like that, especially the orb bit. But some of the videos we got, I just can't debunk. I mean, that's what I call a real orb. It just looks like it lights up from energy.
Gary, what was the one investigation that you and the other members of Unsolved Mysteries went on that just had you totally boggled?
That was probably the one. We had one at Smith Mountain Lake that was probably the worst one I had ever been on, except for one down in Northern Virginia. But this one at the lake was choking the people that lived there, choking the kids, turning off lights, turning them back on. It was one of the first houses. I would have to say that normally I want video proof. I want some sort of visual proof before I say it's haunted. And this had both. I mean, you could see the visual. The EVPs would make the hair stand on top of your head. We was up in the attic. It was myself and two other investigators, and we was up in the attic doing an EVP. And there was an electric guitar on the stand. It was sitting on the stand, and it was, I know, at least 10 feet from me. And Rob, that thing come off the stand and hit me upside the leg. And how it did it, I don't know. I have no explanation for it. As soon as that happened, a voice, all three of us heard a real deep voice that said, "Get out." And I got out. I went downstairs and got out of the attic. So I said, okay, to heck with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set up a video camera in the bedroom. And it just so happened that this is another experiment I like to do. I'll have my equipment manager set up all the video equipment, and then we'll leave the house for about an hour and just let it run by itself and just see what we can pick up with nobody in the house. And I guess it was about 40 minutes into the video, the attic was, just so happened, the attic was in the bedroom of the house, and it sounded like somebody was tearing that attic from one end up to another. It sounded like they were tearing it plumb up. It sounded like boxes being thrown, stomping on the floor up there. I mean, it was just totally wild there for about 5 minutes, and then it stopped as fast as it started.
Any idea what was causing it? Was there any history of the property that would lead you to the conclusion that this sound was being caused by a former resident?
Well, we tried to find out the history of it, and we couldn't find anything on it whatsoever. Now, whether there was a house there before, we have no idea. But it was so funny, when the people moved out, they found a sheet up in the attic that was blood-stained. And there was a picture that really grabbed my attention when I first went in there. It was a little girl, looked like she was back in the late 1800s, in an oval frame, laying up there. And it just, something was about that picture that made me going back,
sure.
touching it, looking at it, and stuff like that. And two of my investigators did an EVP session from the ladder. They wasn't actually up in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, in certain words, can you come out, show yourself, and pull the curtain back? And the prettiest little voice you ever heard of a little girl said, pull it back how far? And it was just like, there was no little girls there. So, I mean,
mm-hmm.
here that little girl's picture up there was up in the attic, and here this EVP comes out just plain as day. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better Class A EVP than this was. And it was the prettiest little voice you ever heard in your life.
Fascinating.
But it was definitely something evil in that house. And since that time, I think I've been told 6 people has moved in and moved out of it. So I know that his father just walked through the front door, the gentleman that had this house, and he just started throwing up right off the bat. So, a lot of people are like that. They're sensitive to stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't go in the house. So, we really had a time with that house. I know I worked on that thing for at least a month trying to come up with something, and the only thing I could come up with is that it was haunted. So
what do you do when you establish beyond a shadow of a doubt that the house is haunted? What do you do from that point?
Well, what we advise them to do, if they have a pastor in their church, they go to church, or if they know of a priest that could come in and do a blessing on the house. We don't do that because you need somebody that knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in and try to do it and you don't know what you're doing, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble. And I've seen stuff like this happen, and I will not do it at all. My grandmother was she was full-blood Cherokee Indian, and she always believed in the saging. But I will not do that. I leave that up to a person who's professional in that field, and I get the evidence. But as far as saging or blessing the house, that would be their job.
How many people?
We always.
I'm sorry, Gary. How many people all told are there in the Unsolved Mystery group?
We have about 5 to 6 people. Sometimes it's a little hard to keep everybody together,
mm-hmm.
especially in the summer. We have one lady, she has a son in the Boy Scouts that's very active, and she's very active with them. Our other gal right now, I think she had an operation, and she's having a lot of complications with it.
Oh, heavens.
But we have a couple of the guys, and then, of course, my wife and myself. And then we are always looking for good people. But this is what I've seen out of a lot of new people, Rob, is they will want to join a paranormal organization,
mm-hmm.
and I guess what they think is they're going to see a ghost the first time they go out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way. They see stuff on TV, but you don't know how many hours it took for them to get anything.
Exactly.
So you just can't go in a house and suspect to see a ghost,
mm-hmm.
or expect to see an orb, or hear somebody knocking, or you just can't expect that. Because I've been in homes where I didn't get any evidence whatsoever. And then I think they get frustrated and just quit. That we don't want to do that if we're not going to see a ghost, and that's kind of the wrong way to do it.
Sure. What kind of training goes into the creation of a good paranormal investigator?
Well, first of all, we always look, like I say, for good people who is honest. We tell them, you go in someone's house, it's like going into your own home. You respect everything that's there.
Mm-hmm.
don't touch anything, don't,
Sure.
respect their house just like it would be theirs. I have meetings, I have training sessions where I'll send some investigators outside and just let them practice doing an EVP session. And then, of course, I'll put an experienced investigator with a new person, and that new person can learn from the experienced investigator how to do an EVP session, what questions to ask, just like a lot of people will do an EVP session and ask a question, and then they'll ask another question. Well, that's not really the right way to do it. The way we do it is we ask a question, and I tell my investigators to wait at least 10 seconds before asking the next question. That way you can get that, if there's something there, you're going to get that answer one way or the other. And because if you just rattle off questions one after another, you're never going to get an EVP because you're asking too many questions at one time. And I tell them to talk just like they were talking to a human being, because these spirits were humans at one time. And ask them anything they want to ask them, but space your time out in between the questions. My equipment manager, he's experienced in setting up the equipment, the cameras, and of course, I still sometimes have my wife help him to make sure they're set up right, and in the area where you can get the whole room if you can. Or sometimes if they're saying something, one specific thing is moving or something like that, we try to focus the camera on that one specific thing. And so it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and a lot of training, especially the Bigfoot hunting, because we have, before my people, if they find something, they have to put rubber gloves on. They use tweezers. We have sterilized containers to put this stuff in. And we mark it. We have plaster we take with us to make castings. So they all have to be trained in all that. But trying to keep the interest, people's interest up, is a hard thing to do. And just like I said, I think they're just wanting to see a ghost the first time they go out, and it's just not possible to do that.
That's why you're there, to make sure that they fully understand what's involved and that patience is required. It's just like in police work. Surveillance is very tedious. It's very tiring. It's very boring, but it's a very essential part of an investigation.
Exactly. You have to have patience.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stay there 6 hours and you may not get anything, but that's okay. If I don't get anything, then that's a good thing, because maybe it's something natural that's making these people think that their house is haunted. But you got to have patience.
Yeah.
You take your time and you train them the right way.
Hey, Gary, our time is up, or you and I have to say so long for now. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. I love the way you think, and I love the way that you're teaching the up-and-coming young paranormal investigators how to do their job. Keep the great work up, Gary, and if anything happens that's really interesting and you'd like to share with the X-Zone Nation, get a hold of me. We'll get you right back on air.
That sounds good, Rob, and it was a pleasure being on your show, and I hope to maybe be on it again another time.
I'm sure you will, Gary. My regards to all the great people in the Unsolved Mystery group that you're running. Take care of yourself, my friend.
Okay, you too, Rob.
Bye-bye now. X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to contact Gary, his website is www.blackcloud, no, I'll give you the numbers, blackcloud24014 at yahoo.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break at the top of the hour as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on the Starcom Radio Network. My name is Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.